Have you been to Pickering Museum Village in Pickering? It's very similar to Black Creek Pioneer Village near York University in Toronto. If you go to this Pickering Village, the houses are really small compared to the houses we live in. I thought to myself, people must have lived in a small spaces in the past. Maybe the technology, economy, or cultural environment of the past made it impossible for common people to live in big houses. There was no technology to build houses as quickly as we do now. There was no financial products like mortgages that allow one to borrow money on the basis of his or her future income potential. More importantly, there was no need to have big houses as most activities were happening outside of a house. How about us living in year 2022? Some people say that 2,000 square feet house is too small. At the same time, some people who care about carbon footprint look for a tiny home. So today I would like to take a moment to think about the size of our homes. We live in Canada, so I'll be talking about single-family homes in North America today. We can find large houses that were built 200 or 300 years ago. However, those were not the houses of common people. According to Moya Mason, the average house size was only about 500 or 600 square feet in the 1800s until the early 1900s. In comparison, the average size of detached houses in the States in 2018 was about 2,600 square feet. Now, let's take a look at the graph that shows the size of houses since 1950. In 1950, the average size was about 1,000 square feet. Since then, it has continued to rise. Like I said, it has risen to 2,600 square feet. Interestingly, the blue dot is data for the state and the red dot is for Canada, which is always smaller than the US average. The Canadian winters are long and the heating costs are high. I think that's why the buildings in Canada are smaller than the US counterparts. In any case, the average house size has more than doubled in the past 70 years. In the past, generations lived together in a house, but these days there's only 3 to 4 people living together in a house. It means that the size of the space occupied by each person has grown 2 to 3 times or more. From the time when humans began to build houses until now, and in the future as well, houses and people influenced each other. The technology, culture, and natural environment of the time influenced the way we build a house. At the same time, the houses we live in influenced the way we think. In the 70s and 80s, the houses were divided into family rooms, dining rooms, and etc. But now, most houses are built with an open concept design. Our preferences have changed. In the 70s, we watched TV together in a family room. Now we watch Netflix on our own iPad or computer alone. The fact that we spend more time alone in our own room might contribute to the idea that we are more self-centered and individualistic compared to the people in the past. Before the oil crisis of the 1970s, when we built a house, we did not pay much attention to insulation because oil, energy was cheap. If it's cold, we just burn more oil. However, after the oil crisis, the cost of energy became expensive. We started putting more insulation in houses. If you take a closer look, we are putting more and more insulation in our homes. It is not only insulation, but also many other materials we need to build a house. A lot of materials means a lot of energy being used in the process of making the materials. And among these materials, there is quite a number of materials that adversely affect our health and health of the planet. For example, before the 1970s, Asbestos was widely used as insulating material, but after various bad effects were made known, Canada banned its use in 1979. Then, are we using healthy materials when we build houses nowadays? Unfortunately, we are making the same mistakes. Although it's not prohibited by law, we are still using a lot of materials that are harmful to our body and harmful to nature. Realizing this environmental impact and the fact that we don't need a big house to live and that the price of a house is too expensive, some people consider a tiny home. If you haven't seen it, search for tiny homes on YouTube. Because the house is so small, they use spaces wisely and with clever ideas. As I'm planning to build a passive house in the future, I have been thinking a lot these days about the size of a house for a family of 3 children and 2 adults. If you are thinking of buying a home, you might want to think about the size of your home as well. Some people complain that new condos have very small spaces. However, considering the houses our ancestors used to live in the past, condos are not that small in size. Compared to the people in the past, I think that we might be living in a huge house. Today, I have one more thing to be thankful for.